from the News Channel 5 Network. This is Open Line.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Open Line. Glad you are with us tonight. It is Tuesday, April 6th, so we're already into April. And tonight, this is a chance for you to call in. We want to hear from you. Tell your stories about how you may be caring for someone who is aging or you yourself is aging. We are talking about elder law. And this is a chance for you to call in, talk with an attorney who knows about elder law, and perhaps give you some advice. And I'm very happy to introduce, I don't know if he needs an introduction, but he is our elder law attorney. Tim Takacs is joining us via Zoom, as all of our guests do, all the way from your home, far away. And you're from your home now, right, Tim?
Yes, in Hendersonville. Now we are working.
Right.
Actually, we moved to our new office in July last year, of course, and practiced very much of social distancing there. With
right.
The mask, we're still doing that. Fortunately, none of our clients that we could tell brought anything into us, or where we gave anything to them. We've all tested negative, and so. You know, my wife and I have had the good fortune earlier this year to be able to get the vaccine. So
good. Okay. Good.
So right now we're, but we're still, we still are trying to make sure, we're still being careful.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. Everybody is being careful.
Yes.
Well, good. I'm really glad you're here. I want to start, of course, encourage people to call in, but I want to have you define elder law. How would you define it? And then we'll start, going from there.
I think maybe the brief description of it is that we help people find, get, and pay for good care. We do estate planning as a part of that. Our estate planning is pretty much traditional estate planning, where we're focusing on. Where it traditionally focuses on what happens when you die, where does your money and property go? But that's sort of one of the things that we always say is everybody needs an estate plan, but not everybody needs to plan for their long-term care, because if you're in your early 20s, that's probably not really on top of your mind.
Right.
Just planning for your long-term care, but. Most of our client base are 60s, 70s, 80s. We have 90-year-old clients. We've had several that are reached 100, and really the focus is not so much about what happens when you die, but how do you have a good, productive, healthy, active life? Obviously while you're still alive.
And one of the things,
how do you meet your needs if you have some chronic care issues?
One of the things we talk about on here, and I encourage people to call in, is if you're caring for someone who's aging, you have a parent who is getting older and you need help. And I know that's a portion of your clients. Some of your clients are obviously the individual, but some are, I guess, kids of aging parents. How can you help a child of an aging parent?
Yeah, and actually, Ben, I'd say is that our clients are always the elder, typically. So we will have the 50, 60-some-year-old children that'll come in and ask, and to talk about their parents' business, their legal business, and their financial and personal care business. So in that case, we represent the older person, and the caregiver child that's coming in, or the children that are coming in, they're coming in because maybe mom is not doing well and they need help at home. They don't know how to get it. Maybe they have estate planning in place, or mother has estate planning in place, but it was done back when mother was in when she was in her 30s or 40s, and hasn't been updated. So that's a lot of what we do there. The children come in because they're going, okay, how do we afford to pay for long-term care? We're told that the nursing home costs $7,000 or $8,000 a month, and our parents don't have that kind of money, and we see that possibility on the horizon that they might need that level of care. And so how can we make the money last and stretch? what options are available to them. Are there public benefits such as veterans benefits or Social Security or Medicare or Medicaid, TennCare, or other benefits that would be available to help maybe stretch the dollar? That's really what we do, a lot of what we do.
That is very important. And so basically, how do you manage this? How do you manage this difficult time if you're trying to help your parent go through a difficult time? And financially, it's a huge part of it.
Yes.
I always ask you. So you used to come on the show all the time. You'd sit right here.
Yes,
now no one comes on the show. Now everybody's via Zoom. But I would always ask, you would come on every couple months, and I would say, so what are you seeing this time of year? Because I guess it would vary from, season to season. Now, I'll modify that question. What are you seeing after COVID? What's kind of coming through your doors right now?
Well, what we're seeing now actually is really in probably the last month or so, or 6 weeks, well, probably in the last month, we're actually seeing we're seeing more people coming in that we feel like that had delayed doing planning, that really delayed doing anything. I mean, I looked at my calendar today over the next next 4 or 5 days, and I had, I think, yesterday and today, and actually on Wednesday and this week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I had people cancel on at 9 o'clock. They were going to come in, but what happened is that we started getting calls, and now all those slots started filling up again. So my calendar is starting to fill up. People who are calling and canceling, maybe they're not coming in for whatever reason, but there's someone right behind them, that's now coming in.
Right.
And it's also happening with my partners as well. So. Well, I think like tomorrow, we have, I think all three of the lawyers in the practice, we have what we call first meetings, where we have a family or somebody that's coming in, and is either trying to plan for themselves or their spouse, or maybe their parent, for the first time, and that's definitely a difference.
Yeah.
From what we've seen.
Well, that's good. So things are beginning to pick back up.
Yes.
And I bet people have put this off. This is something you put off. But then there comes a point where you gotta deal with some of these things, and now now is the time. And so I guess common mistakes people make. What are some common mistakes that you're seeing, and what are some mistakes people make that you really hope that they're able to avoid?
Well, I think I would say probably the biggest mistake that people make is, in some sense, one of omission of something they don't do, and that is that we, and it sort of breaks my heart in a way, is we have people that are coming in to plan, and they come in for a plan immediately after a spouse dies or shortly after a spouse dies, and our sort of idea there is that there's so much planning that can take place for spouses, that if they wait until so you have a married couple and they're in their 70s or so, and maybe they're in fairly good health, or maybe 80s, and then one of them passes away, and then the surviving spouse comes in and says, well, I need to put a plan in place, and I'm worried about if I go to the nursing home, what would happen to me, and what we, and we don't ever say to somebody is, well, you should have done this, because that's just wrong.
Right.
You don't go to the, if you went to the doctor, and you had a cold or the flu or whatever it is, the doctor isn't going to tell you, well, Tim, you shouldn't have done this. You say basically to the doctor, I know I shouldn't have done it. Well, what am I supposed to do now? But ultimately is what, we're telling people is we want people to come in who are married couples, and it's very seldom do you see in a married couple, that they age at the same rate, and that invariably one spouse is going to be sicker than the other. There's going to be some chronic care needs.
Right. Okay.
And those spouses that they need to come in and say, okay, what can we do? Because I'm concerned about my wife. If I predecease her, then what's going to happen to her? And let's say if she was the unhealthy one, I should be concerned. Well, if I die first, who's going to take care of my spouse? That's the sort of thing that couples have an opportunity to put a very good plan in place to protect the surviving spouse.
Wow. And that's huge. And so you recommend they come in together, in maybe a little sooner as opposed to coming in right after a tragedy. Come in a little sooner, and you'll be able to help them kind of navigate some of this stuff. I guess be better prepared, right?
Yes. Sometimes it's just education. They come in, maybe they're in their 70s and they're both in good health, and they're going, well, what should we do now? Should we start giving money and property away? Or what, all that, and we might say to them, no, it doesn't look like there's anything on the horizon for you that you should be looking for. You're both in good health. There's no chronic care issues. There's no history of heart failure. There's no history of cognitive impairment, dementia, or Alzheimer's disease, in your family. There's all sorts of things, and then we're going to have maybe a conversation with them and say, okay, here's the things that you need to be watching for. You need to be looking for, things like, obviously, like I mentioned, heart failure. Heart failure doesn't put people in nursing homes.
Right.
Those people die pretty suddenly. But there are other forms of diseases or chronic care, and people have chronic care needs where they might linger. Like one of my elder care coordinators would always say is that they had the dwindles.
Oh, yeah.
And so they dwindled for years and years and years, and then finally they, wind up in a long-term care facility.
Wow.
But all of those sorts of things that we encourage people to come in when they're, as a married couple, and say, okay, what should our plan be? And I think from our long experience together, Ben, is that doing this program is that we're not big fans of people giving away their money and property.
No, you're not. There's some who want to give their money, start giving it away to their kids.
Right, and sometimes we'll say is don't do that.
I think many times you say that. And as someone's kid, I don't want my parents to hear that. But you are adamant. You say, and can I quote what you say?
Yeah.
Who are the most irresponsible people on earth?
Yes, the most unreliable people on the planet are children, because you say, hey, if I give this money to my son, he'll hold it for me, and it'll be there in case I need it. And of course I say that, and I still say that to clients all the time, is that, I understand that, maybe you don't like to hear that, oh, my son is trustworthy, or whatever it is. That's the real problem, is not that your son is not trustworthy. The problem is that when you need that money, your son may not be able to give it back to you.
Right.
His children might need, he may have medical needs. There might be a number of different reasons that would basically say, look, Mom, I can't do this. I can't give this money back to you. Well, why? Because maybe that child is in bankruptcy, and I've talked about that from time to time. The client that came up there, the daughter that came up to me after after one of our planning sessions with her mother, and said to me, well, Tim, don't tell my mother, but my husband and I are in chapter 13.
Yeah.
Because she talked about, well, I've got this warehouse or whatever it was. She had like a piece of commercial property, that she was talking about giving it to the children, because she says, look, I don't need this. They really are, I want them to have it. I really don't want to manage it. And so we had to come up with other options.
Wow. Right.
And that's the kind of thing that, that kind of stuff comes along every once in a while, and after a while you start paying attention to your clients, and and then you realize, maybe this is not a good idea.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting, and we can talk more about that as the night goes on, because I bet people will have questions about it. But I also want to ask, what are some unique things that you're seeing as a result of COVID? As a result of COVID, what are some of the things that you're seeing and concerns people should be thinking about?
You know, it's hard to say that because, you know, and because I've thought about that, you know, and we've had conversations about that in the office about, you know, what is unique. You know, a lot of it is the way that we have to operate our business and the way that our children and our, you know, and their parents, you know, deal with each other. You know, a lot of it is about people being together. You know, if you have caregiver children, do they have access to their parents? If the caregiver, you know, if the parent is in a long-term care facility, whether that's assisted living or whatever, you know, what sort of visitation has there been? You know, because, you know, as you may know, is that we're very big advocates of children, you know, being care managers, you know, and being advocates for their parents. You know, and the fact that the children don't have access to these care facilities, it sort of frustrates that role.
Oh yeah, I bet.
Yeah, and certainly for us, it's difficult. I mean, our elder care coordinators, we can't get in, you know, literally, you know, our elder care coordinators and who are the ones that are going out and visiting our clients, whether they're at home or a care facility, I mean, they literally do not have access to our clients.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we don't have access. Obviously, the children and other don't have access, and that's, needless to say, it's very frustrating for us because we feel like we can't do a lot of the advocacy work that we're doing. You know, and you know, Ben, that it's been very heartbreaking for, you know, the families, you know, that aren't able to be with their loved one.
It's been a really tough year. Are you seeing that beginning to end? What are you seeing at nursing homes?
Yeah, we're seeing, certainly the visitation is opening up. We're seeing more facilities that they're allowing people to come in. Needless to say, they're still being diligent. You know, but facilities, you know, that, you know, the residents are being vaccinated. You know, that program seems to be going well. You know, so they're limiting. You know, so they are allowing some visitation.
Right.
You know, and I think, and probably, you know, that's one of those things where, you know, I guess what would be an interesting program would be to have the ombudsman to come on and talk about, you know, what the ombudsman program, what they're seeing in a facility.
Yeah, right now it would be. All right.
Yes.
Well, we're going to take a break, and then I want to come back. We can talk about, I guess, wills. Wills are so important.
Yes.
I'm always fascinated when we talk about wills.
Yeah.
The need for a will, what happens if you don't have a will. So if you have a question about anything involving elder law, give us a call. But what about wills? Do you have a question about wills? Contesting a will? Any question you may have, chance to call in, get it answered. Here is the number, 615-737-PLUS. 615-737-7587. Take a break. We'll be back right after this.